Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. It's Friday morning. The weekend is almost here. There are times, we've got this outline, the team puts together and says, okay, we're going to talk about this week. We're going to do this week, and which is cool. And the thing is that we've got a schedule. But from time to time, things happen, and I go, well, this is what I want to talk about. And that event occurred. So I took my car to go get serviced, and I thought, it was only going to be there for a day. It ended up being there for 2 days, but they either give you a loaner car or they'll call you an Uber. And so I said, just give me an Uber. And so my Uber driver picks me up, and I'm driving, and I'm getting driven to the office to start my day. And, the Uber driver's like, wow, it looks like you're a car guy. I'm a car guy. He's speaking with an accent. He's from Guadalajara. His name was Juan, right? He's Mexican. And he was like, someday I'm going to be able to have one of these cars someday. So he asked me what I do, and I told him what we do. But then I asked him what he did. And he said, well, I work for Taco Bell. I was like, oh, okay. Corporate offices. And I have been for 20 years. I was like, wow, how old are you? He said 44. So he started at Taco Bell when he was 24, right? And I said, so what do you do? And he's like, well, I help, franchisees buy Taco Bells. We analyze where's the right place to own a Taco Bell, where to build Taco Bells. And he started just rattling off all this knowledge, right? It's like, Taco Bell only allows you to buy 5 units a piece. Each unit is $1.2 million. The net profit is 13%. So each Taco Bell is going to net you $200,000 in cash flow a year. So if you own 5 Taco Bells, that's $1 million in cash flow for $6 million investment. I'm like, holy moly, this dude knows what the heck he's talking about. And I was like, well, why aren't you doing your own thing? And he said, I'm too scared. I'm like, what? Most of the time, entrepreneurs or someone who's trying to start a business, the cost and the risk is directly tied to your knowledge. If you go into, like for me, if I went and bought a chain of restaurants and I thought I knew how to run a restaurant, I'm going to lose my butt. I mean, it's over. I don't know what the heck I'm doing just because I got the money and I'm buying restaurants and I'm having everybody eat for free and everything like that. I'm losing my butt. And, overpouring, drinks and forget it. It's over. I'm not making any money. But when you've got somebody for 20 years of experience, knowing exactly where to buy, how to buy, the type of money that you make, I was like, wow, you're scared. So what you're saying is you don't have the cojones, right? He goes, yeah, I don't know how to raise money. I don't have any money. I'm like, oh man, money ain't not a problem. I said, when you get for real, you call me. So we text each other's number, and Juan, I'm waiting for you to call me because I'm going to buy all kinds of Taco Bells, and we're going to make a lot of money. I told him, Juan, you don't have to have money. You can have what's called sweat equity, meaning your participation is directly tied to your knowledge of the business. And because you have so much knowledge, the money will follow you. So I'll be the money, you be the knowledge, and together we'll make a lot of money. Call me when you're ready. And that started making me think, like, how many other people have the knowledge but don't know how to raise money? And so that's what the show's about. How to raise money for your business. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about that. When you first start something, you got to start asking questions of yourself like, do I quit my job? right? I want to start this business, but do I quit my job? Am I starting this business to sell it, or is it long-term? Like for 1031 crowdfunding, I don't want to sell it. I want this business to be around for 40, 50 years. I have no intent to sell it. Now, if you going to give me like $10 billion, buy, I'm out. I'm selling in a heartbeat. Gone. Are you willing to give up control of your business? Is something that you need to kind of think about, right? So based on these answers to these questions determines how you're going to raise money. One of the things that you have to really consider is if you're raising money outside of yourself, right? Let's say one of the ways that you can fund your own, fund the business is it's called bootstrapping, right? So you're going to fund it yourself. How are you going to fund it? Well, you can fund it and borrow money from your retirement account. Maybe you can get a loan to do it. But that requires, if you borrow money from your retirement account, that means you're established, you got a retirement account. What if you don't have a retirement account? Well, then you're going to have to bootstrap, right? That means you're going to have to put up your own money. Some people, they put their businesses on credit cards. Well, that's not a good idea because if you put your money on, if you try to run your business on credit cards and you're constantly maxing out your credit cards, it's going to blow up your credit score. And if you blow up your credit score, let's say all of a sudden later on down the road, you have the ability to borrow money, hey, they're going to check your credit. And if your credit is screwed up, you're not getting that money. So what you got to do is you got to start thinking about, okay, don't just think about today, but think about a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because your decisions today are going to be material tomorrow and in the future. So let me go back. I would not recommend using credit cards to fund your business. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, if you do have a retirement account and you can borrow from your retirement account, that may be a good idea to do that. If you have the ability to fund your own business based on your own money, well, obviously that means you can't quit your current job, right? So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, we're talking about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not 9 to 5, right? I go in at 9 o'clock. I'm leaving my job at 5. Well, then as soon as you get home, you start working again, right? You start working again until you go to bed. And you do that every night, every Saturday and Sunday until you get this thing off the ground. Starting your own business is not easy. A lot of people want to do it. A lot of people fantasize about it. And I'll give you an example. Juan. You know what Juan wants? Juan wants the wonderful job, the lifestyle of someone that doesn't have to clock in. He wants to soar like an eagle, but he's not willing to jump off the cliff to allow his wings to catch the air so he can soar. You can't fly if you're not willing to jump. If you're not willing to jump, then just stay at your job. You're not an entrepreneur. Don't waste your time. It's not going to work. But if you're willing to jump and take the risks, it'll work. Most people think you can raise money through SBA loans. Really, an SBA loan is really for people who are buying an existing business or a franchise. And they'll loan you up to $5 million. And why? Because they want revenue. They want to see a balance sheet. They want to see a profit and loss statement. Starting a new business, you have no revenue. So they require that. They also require a debt service coverage ratio. It's called DSCR. And what a DSCR is let's say I'm going to borrow $5 million from the government through an SBA loan, and my payments are $100,000 a year, and they have a 2.0 debt coverage ratio. That means my revenue's got to be $200,000 a year, right? Well, you can't do that with a brand new business that has no revenue. Also, your credit score's got to be like 690 to 720 or higher. So again, if you use your credit cards, you're blowing up your credit score. you're not going to be able to get this loan. The terms on an SBA loan are 10-year terms. They're 25 years for real estate. And guess what? It's all personal guarantee. That's called full recourse. You've got non-recourse loans, meaning, hey, I can't make the payments. Here's the car back, or here's the keys to the house, or to my commercial real estate. Here, I can't make the payment. That's called non-recourse. They'll just take the property back, right? Full recourse means you don't pay them back. They're coming after you, your personal money, etc. And then also, an SBA loan is a variable rate loan. So what's a variable rate loan? Okay, well, let me compare it to a fixed rate. A fixed rate, and I know this is elementary, but this is, I'm trying to just break it down to be as simple as possible. A fixed rate loan is if it's 5%, it's 5%, right? It doesn't change. Variable rate, and this is what SBA loans do, they reset every 90 days. So every 90 days or every 3 months, based on where, prime plus whatever it is, your rate can go up or down. That means your payment goes up or down every 90 days. Very, very risky if you do not have the revenue to handle that thing. So those are SBA loans, and SBA loans, just to summarize, really are just for people buying businesses and starting a franchise. There are other ways you can raise money. You can raise money through venture capitalists or angel investors. What's the difference between the two? The only difference is VC or venture capitalists use other people's money, and angel investors are high net worthy people that actually are using their own money. But if you take that kind of money, VC or angel investor, they're not going to lend it to you. They're going to actually want a piece of your business. And this is the mistake I made when I started 1031 crowdfunding. I didn't realize that, 1031 crowdfunding was going to be what it was going to be. I was just trying to start a business. God told me, do you want to work for me or for man? I said, I want to work for you, Lord. He gave me the name 1031 crowdfunding after fasting for 7 days. And he says, after 7 days, the walls are going to fall down, in Jericho. And the name 1031 crowdfunding came up. And so I named the company 1031 crowdfunding. So I never thought it was going to be what it was going to be. And so here's where my expertise is, and here's where I might be able to bring some clarity in raising money for your own business. There's a show called Shark Tank, and I'm sure everyone's seen that show. And you've got these people, these are entrepreneurs that are presenting their business to these, these gurus. These guys some of them are, billionaires. And if the idea based on the information that these sharks are asking you is something that is enticing to them, they may make an offer to give you a certain amount of money for a piece of your business. And so my mistake that I made is that I gave away so much of my business that I ended up not having majority control. So majority control of your business is, you never want to go below 51%. 51% means you have the majority control of the business. If you go below 50%, you don't have majority control. And that's what I ended up doing. I gave away so much of my company to raise money that as we grew and grew and grew, all these people that invested in my company wanted a return. And so one of my former partners, I ended up owning something like 44% of the company, and that's a problem when you're trying to go get a bank account open, or you're trying to get a loan get a loan from a bank or something like that. They always say, okay, you're not the majority owner. You're not authorized to sign on behalf of all these people. We need to know each and every investor. We need to get each and every investor's consent. And some of these investors that you may have are passive investors. You don't even know them personally. And so now you got to go out and you got to try to get these people to sign off. You have to explain why you're going to do what you're going to do. It's a cluster. right? So one of the things that you should not ever do, should never sell more of your business that actually gets you to the point to where you do not have control. Do not make that mistake. How did I raise money for my business? Is the way I was raising money. Geez, how long did I do it for? I started this business 10 years ago come August. And so from 2000 to 2014, that's all I did is raise money. And so how did I raise money? I raised money through an offering, a securities offering. And so what is a securities offering? A securities offering it's a way to give investors the comfort that you know what you're doing in regards to all the legalese and technical aspects of raising money. And so one of the things that I used to do is I used to help create what's called a private placement memorandum, or PPM. And it's very intimidating, but I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible for you. Creating a PPM really is like writing a book, and you're just throwing things out, and then you get an editor to come in, right? And the editor and all them, the guys and gals that you hire, they all form it together and make this book that all of a sudden now you have chapter 1, 2, 3. That's how it is creating a PPM. A PPM is simply this. What's your story, right? It's like a business plan, right? It's like for me, I'll tell you, and I'm gonna try. I'm using myself as an example so that I can help you kind of simplify all these terms, because sometimes they become so intimidating that you may think that you're not smart enough, and that's not true. There's a lot of bright people out there, but knowledge is power, right? So if I can give you the knowledge, I think I can empower you to kind of go into different areas where you may be able to raise some money. So a business plan, right? What am I going to do? So for me, what I did is I started looking up all the competition, right? So in 2012, there's this law that came out called the Jobs Act, right? And what the Jobs Act is, just to keep it simple, is that, before that law came out, if I wanted you to invest in a product that I had, you couldn't invest in it unless I knew you. That's what's called a pre-existing relationship. I had to know you prior to this investment coming out. So if the investment date on the document was December 31st and I met you January 1st, I couldn't show it to you because I didn't have a pre-existing relationship. But if I knew you before December 31st, I can show it to you, right? So it was very limited. Well, what the Jobs Act said is, okay, you can still do that, but here's what we're gonna do now. You don't need to know these people now, right? You can have them invest without knowing. So I took advantage of that. And so the idea was I was gonna create this shopping mall, right? In the shopping mall, i.e. 1031 crowdfunding. If you think of a shopping mall, the shopping mall has got stores in it, right? It's got Tilly's and Vans and Nordstrom's and, got jewelry stores and toy stores. And every time somebody walks into that mall is attracting a different customer. That customer might want to go buy makeup, or they came to go buy a pair of shoes or some clothes. Based on what their need was, determine what store they would go into. So the idea was to create this mall, 1031 crowdfunding, for real estate. Right? And so my storefronts were apartments, senior housing, student housing, self-storage, industrial, office space, yada, 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 yada. So if I had all this real estate in my mall, I knew that I would attract customers. Some customers wanted apartments. Some customers wanted self-storage. Some customers wanted senior housing. And that was part of my business plan. But I was going to focus on 1031 exchanges. No one else was doing that. And that's a key point right there, right? You want to raise money for your business, make sure that you're unique, right? Not completely different. I mean, you've got TikTok is different than Instagram. Somewhat similar, but they're different. Got Facebook, right? Then you got LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is kind of like for business people. But they're all social media platforms, right? But all of them have a different spin on it. So now I'm not saying come out and create something from scratch that no one's ever heard of. I mean, that'd be great if you can pull it off. But if you start researching the areas that you're very familiar with and you start seeing who the people or the players are in the space, make sure you're not completely copying somebody, because the first thing I'm going to do, I would consider myself as an angel investor and you come to me, first thing I'm going to do is, well, tell me what you're trying to do. And you're going to tell me your story. I'm going to hear your story, and then I'm going to do my own research. And if I find out you're kind of doing something that somebody else is doing, you're not raising any money. It's just not going to happen, okay? So that's number one. You tell your story, right? And you're telling your story to the lawyer. So you have to hire a securities lawyer. Securities lawyers would be like companies like William Mullen or DLA Piper, right? These are security firms that if you tell them, hey, I want to raise money for my business, they're going to start asking you a lot of questions. Are you raising money through the financial services industry, like Ameriprise Financial or Merrill Lynch or Schwab? Or are you just raising money from friends and family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And based on what you tell them, that is going to determine the cost associated with creating this private placement memorandum. And so normally a PPM is going to cost you anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 to do, okay? But you got to think about this, right? If you're going to fund your own stuff, save up the money, right? And you don't need to pay it all up front, right? They don't say, well, give me the whole $50,000 up front. That's not how it works. So they'll say, give me a retainer. Let's say I need $10,000 retainer. And once that retainer is kind of like a gas tank, right? So the $10,000, your gas tank is full. Well, then all of a sudden what happens is that as they're doing work, your gas tank is you're half full. Now it's, you're almost out of gas. The 10,000 is almost done. You got to fill up the gas tank again with another, you got to refill the retainer, okay? So I don't want you to think that you have to come out the pocket all the time up front. You don't have to do that. And sometimes you can even charge the cost of creating everything to the deal, right? So let's say you're trying to raise $500,000, right? And out of that $500,000, you're telling everybody, well, I'm taking $50,000 of the $500,000 to pay the lawyers that created this deal. And you can do that as well, right? So hire a lawyer. Those lawyers are going to listen to your story. Once you tell them the story, they're going to ask you, okay, what are you going to use the money for? This is very, very important, because what happens is a lot of people go out and quit their job and then try to raise money, and inside what's called estimated use of proceeds, it's part of the table of content in this PPM, right? So you're looking at estimated use of proceeds, and what that is what are you using the money for? If I see in the estimated use of proceeds, within your operating expenses, you have payroll, I'm out. I'm not doing that. I'm not investing to pay your bills, because what'll happen is all of a sudden I give you my money, you start living on my money, you fail, and I lose my money. So I'm not interested in paying somebody else's bills. So whatever you do, don't quit your job and in the estimated use of proceeds, put in there payroll. That is going to be the hardest amount of money that you've ever raised. And if you're not experienced in raising money, you won't raise any money. It's just not going to happen, okay? Another thing that I would suggest is that you escrow the funds. And here's what I mean. In the private placement memorandum, you're going to say, we will not touch $1 until $200,000 is raised. And if I don't raise the $200,000 by December 31st, 2024, I'm going to give you all your money back. What does that make me feel as an investor? Oh, shoot, okay. So my next question to you is, can $200,000 get you started? Then you got to show me, yeah, okay, so if I had $200,000, I'm going to spend $50,000, here with the lawyers, and then I got $150,000, and, I'm going to work out of my garage. It's only going to be me. I'm going to use it to create a website. I'm going to use it to maybe get some marketing going. You're using the money to try to get the business off the ground, but you're not spending any of the money until you hit $200,000. I know, at least as an investor, $200,000 gives you a good shot of getting it off the ground, right? Instead of using the money right now, your success is only going to be based on how fast you raise the money, right? So let's say you raise $10,000 and you use the $10,000 to create a website or whatever it may be. All of a sudden, you're struggling to raise more money. Well, great, you got a website, but you can't raise any more money. And if you can't raise any more money, you've got an online business card that costs you 10 G's. I'm not investing in that, right? I won't do that. But if you tell me, hey, I'm escrowing the money, 200 grand, and here's the 200 grand, I'm going to use it for this, and that's 200 grand. I'm like, oh, okay, that works. I'm interested. At least I know my money's protected until you hit that $200,000, and now we're off to the races, right? So escrow your funds too.